Entwined with our ideas of self and identity is our personality. Your personality is all the traits that can be used to describe your behaviors, such as whether you are outgoing or friendly or aggressive. One trait theory that has received considerable attention is the Big Five factors of personality. The Big Five are openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism or emotional stability. One way to remember all five is that their first letters spell the word ocean. Openness refers to your openness to new experiences and ideas. Individuals who are high on openness tend to be more tolerant of others, be more creative, and willing to try new things. Openness is associated with better health and more successful aging, possibly because they are more willing to make the changes necessary for adaptation. Individuals who are high in conscientiousness are more organized, careful, and disciplined. People who are low on conscientiousness are more disorganized, careless, or impulsive. Extroversion refers to how sociable and affectionate a person is. Some people are very fun-loving and outgoing, whereas others are more reserved and serious. People high in agreeableness are more soft-hearted, trusting, and helpful. They are the ones who value cooperation and caring, whereas people who are low in agreeableness have a disposition that is more ruthless, suspicious, and uncooperative. So far, being high in these traits, openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, and agreeableness, are all associated with positive developmental outcomes. By contrast, it's not healthy to be high in neuroticism. People who are high in neuroticism are more anxious, insecure, and self-pitying. They are more likely to experience health problems, burnout, and drug use. For the most part, our Big Five personality traits stay relatively stable throughout our lives. However, we do tend to become slightly more agreeable and slightly less neurotic as we age, which is a good thing. Another important personality characteristic is optimism, having a positive outlook on the future and minimizing problems. It's often referred to as a style of thinking. Not much research has been done on optimism in children, but research on optimism in adolescents and adults have shown that higher levels of optimism are associated with better emotional adjustment, better health outcomes, and longer lives. Optimists tend to focus on positive possibilities and how to accomplish them. So it might be that since optimists focus on what they can do and what resources are available, they're more likely to engage in behaviors that lead to better outcomes. In terms of how or why people's personalities develop, change, or stay the same, there are two general theories to explaining it. Older theories use a stage crisis view. Stage crisis theories state that there are stages that all people go through in their adult lives, and that the successful or unsuccessful resolution of each of these stages are what shape a person's personality. The two main stage crisis theories are Levinson's Seasons of a Man's Life and Erikson's psychosocial stages. More recently, psychologists have adopted a life events approach, which says that life events are taxing circumstances for individuals, which forces them to change their personality. Levinson's Seasons of a Man's Life approach is a stage crisis view of development. Developmental tasks must be mastered at each stage. By the end of the teenage years, Levinson says that you should see a transition from dependence to independence, marked by the formation of a life dream. The 20s are a novice phase of adult development, followed by another transition with the determination of more concrete life goals. The 30s are marked by a focus on family and career, near the end of which he enters the phase of becoming one's own man, or boom. By age 40, he has reached a stable place in his career, and then he starts to think about what life will be as a middle-aged adult. According to Levinson, the midlife transition lasts about 5 years, ages 40 to 45, and involves coming to grips with key conflicts, being young versus being old, being destructive versus being constructive, being masculine versus being feminine. That was his way of saying becoming less competitive and more nurturing. And being attached to others versus being separated. Although Levinson viewed this midlife transition as a crisis, it's not actually a midlife crisis in the sense that we have come to use it in everyday conversation. For most people, this period doesn't actually feel like a crisis. It's more of a reassessment of their roles and goals. Erickson also argues that middle-aged adults face the issue of reevaluating their roles and goals in his psychosocial stage of generativity versus stagnation. Generativity is your desire to leave a legacy of yourself to the next generation. This can be developed in a number of ways. It may take the form of having children, nurturing children, engaging in meaningful work and passing down their work-related skills and knowledge, or conserving some aspect of the culture that ultimately survives. They're essentially answering the question, what will remain of me when I'm gone? A criticism of Levinson's and Erickson's stage crisis approaches is that they don't take individual variations into account. Not everyone experiences a midlife crisis, and at any given time, some people may be experiencing struggles in some aspects of their life while other aspects are going perfectly smoothly. So it's not as clear cut as if you are in this age range, this is the crisis you're going through. The life events approach is meant to address this. This is another way to think about the ways in which adult personality changes occur. This approach emphasizes that how life events influence development depends on the event itself, such as marriage, widowhood, the birth of a child, or an accident, plus mediating factors like health or income, how the individual copes with the event, their life stage context, such as whether they are in their 20s or their 50s, and their socio-historical context. For example, getting a divorce in the mid-1800s would be much less commonplace or accepted than getting a divorce in the 21st century. So things might be more stressful or less stressful for some individuals than others, and can be a stronger or weaker driving force for personality changes. The main criticism of this theory is that it places too much emphasis on change and doesn't recognize that our personalities stay relatively stable throughout our lives. But that is the nature of such things. We continue to gather evidence and use it to form deeper and better understandings of how things work. There is certainly more work to be done in the area of personality development.